Hi, welcome to my journey. This is Miss Carr, and I am inviting you to learn with me. Are you ready? Let's go! Hello! Ang pag-uusapan natin today is about exponents and square roots. Today, malalaman natin kung ano yung relationship nila sa isa't isa at kung paano isolve yung exponents tsaka square roots when we apply the four basic operations. Okay, let's start! I have here two real-life applications of exponents and square roots. I want you to try to solve this and let's see if you already have that skills and knowledge about these concepts. Kung nahihirapan pa kayo, it's okay. Kasi pag-aaralan naman natin later kung paano ginagawa or sinusolve yung exponents and paano ina-apply yung square roots. Okay? Alright, so ngayon, nakikita nyo na merong 2 tapos 5 sa taas. Ang basa dyan is either 2 to the 5th power or 2 to the power of 5. Minsan naman, 2 raised to 5. So yung 5 dyan, yan yung tinatawag na exponent or power or index. Then yung 2, yan yung base. Merong mga special names. So, like, kapag yung exponent mo is 2, ang tawag dyan is 2 squared. Pag yung exponent mo naman is 3, ang tawag dyan is 2 cubed. But the rest, pwede nyo silang tawagan pag 4 yung exponent, 2 to the 4th power. Pag 6, 2 to the 6th power. Okay? Okay. So, saan ba natin magagamit or maa-apply yung concept ng exponent? So, let's have the meaning of exponential. Sabi dito, it is becoming more and more rapid or fast. So, ibig sabihin, itong concept na to, ina-apply to when the situation is about yung mabilisang pagdami or madali ang paglaki. So, we have here like 2 raised to 5 or 2 to the 5th power. Ang ibig sabihin lang yan, kapag nakita nyo na ang base nyo is 2, ibig sabihin, you need to double it. Okay? So, when you say double, ibig sabihin, you need to multiply it by 2. Yung exponent ang magsasabi kung ilang beses mo siyang imumultiply or idodouble. So, dahil 2 raised to 5 yan, ibig sabihin, imumultiply mo siya by 2 ng 5 beses. Okay? So, some example kung saan natin magagamit yung exponent is yung, like yung pagdami ng bacteria. And let's see kung paano siya i-apply. For example, ang unang bacteria or meron akong bacteria na isa. And then, I want to know kung nadodoble yung bacteria na yon sa isang araw, sa 5 araw, ilan na yung bacteria. Okay? So, sa unang araw, since nadoble siya, meron ka ng 2 bacteria. Sa pangalawang araw, yung 2 na yun, nadoble na naman. So, meron ka ng 4 na bacteria. Yung 4 na yun, sa sumunod na araw, madodoble ulit. So, ibig sabihin, meron ka ng 8 na bacteria. Sa susunod na araw, yung 8 na yun, madodoble ulit, kaya meron ka ng 16 na bacteria. Sa pang-5 araw, nadoble yung 16, kaya meron ng 32 na bacteria. Okay? So, kung mapapansin nyo, sa bawat araw, nadodoble siya. So, sa unang araw, merong 1 beses na nadoble. Sa pangalawa, 2 beses. Sa pangatlo, 3 beses. Sa pang-apat, 4 beses. At sa pang-5 araw, 5 beses na doble. Okay? So, again, the exponent will tell you kung ilang beses na doble. Okay? So, kung titignan nyo yung equation natin sa lababa, so, pwede nyo siyang isolve as 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Eh, di ba, pag minultiply natin yung 2 ng 5 beses, pwede nyo siyang isulat as 2 raised to 5. Okay? So, pwede nyo rin isulat na 1 times 2 raised to 5. So, pag sinolve nyo yung both side, parehas lang na 32 yung sagot. Okay? Okay, let's have another example kung paano natin ma-apply yung exponent. I have here 3 raised to 4 or 3 to the 4th power. Pag sinabi naman natin 3 yung base natin, ang ibig sabihin lang yan, natitriple or naging thrice or we need to multiply it by 3. So, dahil 4 sa exponent, we need to multiply it by 3 ng 4 na beses. Okay? Let's have an example. Another application ng exponent is yung sa networking. 'Di ba sinasabi doon na, kunyari, nakapag-recruit ka ng 10, yung 10 na yun, magre-recruit ulit ng 10, and then yung 10 na na-recruit, magre-recruit ulit. So yes, you can apply exponent in that scenario. But here, let's say, meron ka ng 100 na tao. Okay? Ngayon, sa kada buwan na nagre-recruit ka, ang sabi doon, natitriple daw yung mga tao na yon. Ibig sabihin, dumadami sila. Okay? Ng times 3. So, let's say, ilan kaya yung tao na na-recruit mo after 4 months? So, let's see kung paano siya i-apply. So, sa unang araw, yung 100 na yon na triple. So, you'll times that by 3. So, 100 times 3, sa unang araw, meron ka ng 300 na na-recruit. Or sa unang buwan. Ngayon, sa next month, yung 300 na yon matitriple ulit. So, you'll multiply that by 3 again. So, sa second month, meron ka ng 900. Dun sa third month, yung 900 na yon, you need to multiply it again by 3 dahil matitriple daw siya. So, in the month or 3 months, meron ka ng 2,700. Now, sa pang-apat na buwan mo, yung 2,500, matitriple ulit, so you'll multiply that by 3, then you have now 8,100 na na-recruit. Okay? So, you can solve that also by 100 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Or, you could just simply, what? Diba, yung 4 na beses na nag-multiply ka ng 3, gawin mo siyang 3 raised to 4. And then, multiply that one by 100. And then, if you do that, you'll get the same answer, 8,100. Okay? Okay. So, pag-usapan natin yung iba-ibang klase ng exponent. Okay, so we have positive exponent, zero exponent, negative exponent, and fractional exponent. Pag sinabing zero exponent, ibig sabihin, it's always 1. Kahit ano pa yung base na ginamit mo. Let's say, 6 raised to 0, 7 raised to 0, 8 raised to 0, that is always equivalent to 1. Okay? So, yung 1, minultiply mo siya ng minultiply sa 5, so, ang base na ginamit natin is 5. So, kung ilang beses minultiply yung 5, yun yung number ng exponent. So, 1 times 5, ibig sabihin, isang beses minultiply sa 5, so 5 raised to 1. Pag dalawang beses mo na siya minultiply sa 5, 5 raised to 2. So, multiplication is equivalent to positive exponent. Okay? Kung mapapansin nyo, kung i-reverse nyo yan, so let's say 5 divided by 5, divided by 5, divided by 5, divided by 5, uulit ka lang or babalik ka lang sa 1. Okay? So, lumiliit lang din yung value niya. And then, nababawasan yung positive exponent hanggang naging 0 na. Okay? So, punta naman tayo sa negative exponent. Alright, simula sa 1, instead na multiplication, naging division. So, 1 divided by 5, so that is equivalent to 1/5. Okay? And then that 1/5, you divided by another 5, that will be equivalent to 1 over 25. 1 over 25 divided by 5, that will be 1 over 125. 100 or 1 over 125 divided by 5, that will be 1 over 625. Okay? So, opposite siya. Yung multiplication, palaki ng palaki. Yung division, paliit ng paliit. So, opposite yung nangyayari. Same goes dun sa exponent. Since yung multiplication, positive exponent, so yung opposite ng positive is negative. Kaya makikita nyo na yung negative exponent, ang equivalent niyan is yung opposite nung positive exponent. So let's say 5 raised to 1, ang equivalent niyan is 5. The opposite to 5 is 1/5. Diba? Kasi kung gagawin yung fraction si 5, that is 5 over 1. So baliktarin nyo siya, that is 1 over 5. The opposite ng 25, or 25 over 1, that will be 1 over 25. Okay, so that's the exponent, or the negative exponent. You need to get the opposite of that base. Alright? Now, I have your fractional exponent, like 25 raised to 1/2. So, pag nakita nyo na naka-fraction yung exponent, sinasabi lang dyan na you need to get the root, okay, of that number or base. So, depende kung ano yung nasa denominator, kung anong klaseng root yung kukunin nyo. So, since I have here 1/2, so my denominator is 2. So, ibig sabihin, yung kukunin ko is square root. Alright? Pero kunyari, 1/3, so 3 yung denominator, ang kukunin mo is cube root. Kung 1/4, edi 4th root. Tapos, yung 1 na numerator, yan yung magiging exponent ng radicand. Yung radicand na tinatawag natin is yung nandun sa loob ng radical sign. So, pag-aaralan natin or pag-uusapan natin yung square root later. So, yes, yung numerator, yan yung nandun sa exponent ng radicand. Okay? Then, yung denominator, yan yung magsasabi kung anong klaseng root yung kukunin mo. Alright? So, yes, we have 4 types of exponent. We have positive exponent, zero exponent, negative exponent, and fractional exponent. Okay? Okay, so pag-usapan naman natin yung rules of exponent. So, we have the product property, quotient property, power of power property, power of a product property, power of a quotient property. So, isa-isahin natin sila. Okay? Okay, so first, we have the product property. From the word itself, product. So, ibig sabihin, mag-multiply tayo. So, here, I have the same base, which is 2, and then their exponent is 2 and 4. So, ang gagawin lang natin, if we will multiply them, we need to add their exponent. So, 2 raised to 2, or 2 squared, times 2 raised to 4th, 2 plus 4 is equals to 6. So, equivalent lang yan ng 2 raised to 6. So, kung isosolve natin yung 2 squared, that is 4. 2 to the 4th power, that is 16. And then, when you multiply that, that is 64. Kung isosolve naman natin yung 2 raised to 6th, so, mumultiply mo lang yung 2 ng 6 na beses, then you'll get the same answer, which is 64. Quotient property. So, from the word itself, quotient, so it involves division. So, we have here 3 raised to 6 divided by 3 squared. So, kung isusulat natin yung 3 raised to 6, so, nagmultiply tayo ng 3 ng 6 na beses. Yung 3 squared, so, 2 beses. So, mapapansin nyo, puro 3. Tama? Again, when we have the same numerator and denominator, it's division, right? So, 3 over 3, or 3 divided by 3, that is equivalent to 1. That's why when we have the same numerator and denominator, we'll just cancel it out. Kasi ang equivalent lang yan is 1. So, kung mapapansin nyo, 2 beses tayo nag-cancel ng numerator tsaka denominator. So, ibig sabihin may 2 tayong 1. Parehas lang yung magiging sagot niya kapag minultiply mo yung 1 times 1 at ita-times mo yan dun sa 4 na natira. Okay? So, kaya, you don't need to put the 1 times 1. Kasi same lang din naman yung sagot kung nandyan yan or wala. So, kaya automatic na kinakancel yung same numerator and denominator. Okay? So, kung titingnan nyo, ang nangyari na lang, when we cancel yung 3 sa taas at 3 sa baba, may natira na lang tayong 4 na 3. Pero sa denominator, wala na. So, ibig sabihin, when we have quotient property, or nagdi-divide tayo ng merong exponent, mina-minus na lang natin yung exponent. So, in this case, 6 minus 2, so the exponent na lang is 4, which is, yung natira naman talaga na 3 is 4. Okay? Then, when we solve that, it will be 3 raised to 4. Okay? So, kung solve niyo siya, 3 raised to 6 is equivalent to 729. 3 squared 9. So, 729 divided by 9, parehas lang yung sagot kapag 3 to the 4th power, which is equivalent to 81. Okay? So, again, when we divide numbers with exponent, just minus their exponent, then solve it. Power of power property. In this case, yung number natin na may exponent, nilagyan ulit ng exponent. So, in this example, we have 4 squared, and then we raise it to the 3rd power, or minultiply ulit natin siya ng 3 beses. So, we can solve that by multiplying their exponent. So, 2 times 3, that is 6. So, 4 squared raised to 3 is equivalent to 4 to the 6th power. Why? Kasi kung titingnan natin, yung 4 squared raised to 3, ibig sabihin, multiply natin siya ng 3 beses. So, meron tayong 4 squared times 4 squared times 4 squared. And again, di ba yung product property natin, if meron tayong same base and minumultiply natin sila, i-add lang natin yung exponent. So, we have 2 plus 2 plus 2, that is equivalent to 6. So, we have 4 raised to 6. Okay? Then, if we will solve that separately, so, inuna natin yung 4 squared, so we have 16. Saka natin siya imumultiply ng 3 beses sa sarili niya, and then we'll get the same answer na 4,096. Okay? Kahit gawin nyo pa siya na 4 raised to 6, or i-multiply nyo yung 4 ng 6 na beses sa sarili niya, we will get the same answer na 4,096. Power of a product property. So, in this case, nag-multiply tayo, and then we raised that, or my exponent. Okay? So, in this example, we have 5 times 2. So, we get the product, and then we have the exponent of 3. We can solve that by putting the exponent 3 dun sa bawat factor. So, let's say, 5 raised to 3 times 2 raised to 3. Parehas lang yung magiging sagot. So, kung uunahin natin yung nandun sa parentheses, which is 5 times 2, that is 10. And then, saka natin siya imumultiply ng 3 beses dahil 3 yung exponent natin, we'll have 1,000. Kung gagawin naman natin yung isang equation, which is 5 raised to 3, that is 125. And then, 2 raised to 3, that is 8. When we multiply 125 and 8, we'll get the same answer, which is 1,000. Power of a quotient property. So, since quotient, involve yung division. But this time, magkaiba yung numerator natin tsaka denominator. And then, once we have the quotient, we multiply it by itself 5 times because our exponent is 5. Now, same lang yung magiging sagot niya if you distribute the exponent to each numerator and denominator. So, it will become 2 raised to 5 and 3 raised to 5. So, since exponent niya is 5, ang ibig sabihin lang niyan is yung 2/3, i-multiply natin siya ng 5 beses sa sarili niya. So, we have what you see on the screen. Eh, di ba kapag nag-multiply tayo, ang gagawin lang natin is we will add the exponent. So, yung 2/3, minultiply natin ng 5 beses sa sarili niya. So, bawat isa dyan, ang exponent niya is 1. So, since it's multiplication, i-add lang natin yung exponent na 1. So, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equals to 5. So, that's why the numerator is 2 raised to 5 and the denominator is 3 raised to 5. So, if you're gonna compute for that, then the answer is just 32 over 243. Now, let's have examples. So, our first example, 5 raised to 0 plus 5 is equivalent to 1 plus 5. Why? Remember, 5 raised to 0 is always 1. So, the answer is 6. In this example, we have negative exponent. And then, if you remember, if we have negative exponent, we'll just go and get the opposite, right? So, 3 raised to negative 3 will become 1 over 3 raised to 3. And the answer is 1 over 27. Imagine kung walang negative yung exponent natin. So that will become 3 raised to 3. And the answer is 27, right? So since negative yung exponent natin, so we'll get the opposite of that 27 and that will be 1 over 27. Okay, I have here 1 over 3 raised to negative 3. So, kanina, meron tayo nung 3 raised to negative 3, which is kinuha natin yung opposite niya. So, naging fraction. But in this case, naka-fraction na siya. And then, the denominator is negative 3 yung exponent. So, ang gagawin natin, we'll just get the whole number and the exponent will become positive. Why? Because if we will solve that using division, since naka-fraction siya, ganito lang yung mangyayari. So, 1 divided by dun sa denominator, which is 3 raised to negative 3, eh di ba yung equivalent ng 3 raised to negative 3 is 1 over 3 cubed. So, let's divide it. 1 over 1 divided by 1 over 3 cubed. And kung maaalala nyo kung paano mag-divide ng fraction, nagiging multiplication siya at kinukuha natin yung opposite ng isang term. So, yung 1 over 3 cube will become 3 cube over 1. Then, we will multiply the numerator. So, 1 times 3 cube, it will become 1 times 27, and that's only 27. And the denominator is 1 times 1, so that will be 1. Or, 27 over 1 is just equivalent to 27. So, same lang yung magiging sagot kung dinirekta mo na siya na 3 raised to 3 because it's also 27. Practice time. So, I want you to copy the questions and then answer it on your own. Then, just check your work here, okay? Practice, practice, practice. Okay, last one. Okay, so pag-usapan natin yung square. 'Di ba kung mapapansin nyo, ang isang square, parehas yung mga sukat niya. Yung length niya is equals dun sa width. So, katulad nung nasa screen, meron akong 4 na squares dyan. Yung isa, bawat side niya tig-isa. Yung dalawa, bawat side niya tig-2. Yung isa naman, 3 yung side niya. Yung isa, 4 yung sides niya. So, kung mapapansin nyo, kung ita-times nyo yung side tsaka length, parehas lang yung factor. Like, yung unang square, 1 times 1 is equals to 1. So, pwede nyo siyang isulat na instead na 1 times 1, pwede nyo nang gawing 1 squared, right? And the answer is still 1. Yung pangalawa, ita-times nyo yung length tsaka width, so 2 times 2 equals to 4. Then, instead na 2 times 2, pwede nyo gawin na 2 squared. And the answer is still 4. So, yung next naman, 3 times 3 equals to 9. So, 3 times 3 will just become 3 squared. And the other square, which has 4 sides each, pwedeng gawin nyo ng 4 squared. And you'll get the answer 16. Okay? Yung mga sagot, kapag in-square mo, ang tawag dyan is area. So, bibilangin mo yung square sa bawat figure. Kung ilan yung squares doon, yun yung tinatawag nating area. Okay? C-square lang yung may same na side. So, siya lang yung pwede mong i-square yung side niya. Kasi pare-parehas lang yung magiging factor. Okay? Perfect squares. When we say perfect squares, parehas lang yan yung ginawa natin kanina when we get the area of squares. Remember, yung bawat side, minultiply natin dun sa isa pang side. So, in-square lang natin sila. So, when we say perfect squares, ito yung number na kapag yung factor niya is pwedeng i-multiply sa sarili niya, the result will be that number. Example, si 25. 'Di ba factor niya si 5? Kung i-multiply natin si 5 sa sarili niya, so 5 times 5, it's 25. Kaya tinatawag na perfect square si 25. Another is 100. May factor siyang 10. Kapag minultiply mo yung 10 sa sarili niya, so 10 times 10, it's just 100. Okay? So, marami ka bang pwedeng idagdag na perfect squares. And hindi lang to limited sa nakikita mo ngayon. Alright? Alright, so pag-usapan naman natin yung square root. So, kung makikita nyo sa screen, meron akong square root of 25. And yung 25, yan yung tawag is radicand. Pag sinasabi nating square root, ano yung number na kapag in-square mo siya, the answer will be the radicand. So, in this case, the square root of 25 is 5 because 5, pag minultiply mo sa sarili niya or in-square mo, the answer is 25, which is yung radicand natin dyan sa example. Alright, so this time, we will talk about the sides of the square. Kanina, for us to get the area of the square, we need to multiply the side by each side. So, since equal sila, ginawa mo na lang square. Tama? So, this time, when we get the sides of the square, you need to square root the area. So, in this case, yung unang square, yung area niya is 1. Kasi 1 square lang nakikita mo doon, right? And then you get the square root of 1, that is 1. So, ibig sabihin, each side of that square is 1. Yung pangalawang square, yung square niya sa loob is 4. So, that square has 4 area. So, to get the side of each side, you need to square root the 4 and that is 2. So, bawat side niya ang sukat is 2. The next square, the area of that figure is 9. So, to get the size of that side, kailangan mo square root si 9, so that is 3. The last squares, we have 16 na area niya. Dahil 16 yung squares niya dyan. So, to get the size ng bawat side niya, we need to get the square root of 16 and that's equivalent to 4. Okay? Okay, so I have here the examples of perfect squares and square roots. So, kung mapapansin mo, opposite lang sila. If I am going to square a number, kung i-reverse ko lang yan, kukunin ko lang yung square root ng perfect square. Okay? So, example, 4 squared is 16. Kung i-reverse ko, kukunin ko yung square root ng 16 and that is 4. Okay? So, again, kapag kukunin natin yung square or yung area ng isang square, we need to square the sides. If we will get the size of the side of the square, we will need to get the square root of that area. Okay? Okay, so let's try to get the estimated square root of a number, especially if that is not a perfect square. So in this case, I have 27. So let's try to get the estimated square root of 27. So first, we need to identify the lower perfect square before that 27 and the bigger perfect square after that 27. And then we have 25 and 36. The square root of 25 is 5 and the square root of 36 is 6. Okay? So our assumption, the square root of 27 is just between 5 and 6. Okay? The next step is we need to minus the 27 and the lower perfect square, which is 25, then we have 2. Next, we need to minus the perfect square 36 and the lower square 25, which is 11. Then after that, let's make it into fraction, yung 2 and 11, so we have 2 over 11. So our answer is this square root of the lower perfect square, which is 5, and the fraction 2 over 11. Or, if we will convert the fraction into decimal, our answer is 5.2. Alright, so our assumption kanina na ang square root ng 27 is between 5 and 2 is correct because we got 5.2. If we want to check if our answer is correct, let's just square the answer or the root. So 5.2 squared is equals to 27.04 or 27, which is yung number that we're trying to get the estimated square root. Okay? Another example. So we'll need to get the estimated square root of 63. Since 63 is not a perfect square, we need to find kung ano yung lower perfect square before si 63 at yung bigger perfect square after ni 63. Then we have 49 and 64. The square root of 49 is 7 and the square root of 64 is 8. Then we need to minus the 63 and the lower perfect square, which is 49, then we have 14. Next, we need to minus the bigger perfect square, 64, minus the lower perfect square, 49, and then we get 15. Now, the answer is the square root of 49, which is 7, and the fraction of 14 and 15, so our answer is 7 and 14 over 15, or 7.94. So let's check that by squaring the 7.94 and then we'll get 63.4 or zero point 0.04 or just 63, which is our yung sinasagutan natin square root. Next, let's get the estimated square root of 130. Again, 130 is not a perfect square. So let's find out the lower perfect square before that and the bigger perfect square after that. Then we have 121 and 144. The square root of 121 is 11 and the square root of 144 is 12. Now, let's minus 133 and the lower perfect square, which is 121, and then we get 9. Then, let's minus the bigger perfect square, 144, and the lower perfect square, 121, then we have 23. So the answer now is the square root of the lower perfect square, which is 11, and then the fraction of 9 and 23, or 11.4. So if we check that, we need to square the 11.4, then we get 129.96 or 130, which is the number that we are trying to get the estimated square root. Alright, so kanina, kinuha natin yung estimated square root ng isang number na hindi perfect square. This time, we will simplify the square root ng isang number na hindi perfect square. Okay? Example, square root of 48. Alam natin na si 48 hindi siya perfect square. So, ang gagawin natin, we need to find yung factor ni 48 na perfect square. So, di ba ang factor ni 48 is 16 and 3? Si 16, perfect square siya. So, we need to get the square root of both factor. So, square root of 16 is 4. And then, si 3, hindi naman siya perfect square. So, as is lang siya. And then, when we multiply that, we will just combine them. So, the simplified square root of 48 is 4 square root of 3. If we want to check if our answer is correct, i-reverse nyo lang siya. So, since si 4, root siya or square root, you need to square that. So, 4 times 4, and then i-multiply mo yung 3. And that is 48. So, same number dun sa original na kinukuha na natin ng square root. Okay? If you want to check it with your calculator, so, just click 48, and then, i-click mo yung naka-box dyan. And then you'll get the same answer na 6.928 and so on. And the other way is yung 4 square root of 3, ang gagawin mo muna is, kunin mo muna yung square root ni 3. So, same nung ginawa natin kanina, i-click mo si 3, tapos pindutin mo yung naka-box dito sa calculator, saka mo i-times dun sa square ni 4, which is 16. So, makikita mo na same pa rin sila ng sagot. Alright? Again, dun sa last na equation, dun sa calculator part, square mo muna, or kunin mo muna yung square root ni 3, saka mo i-times dun sa square ni 4, which is 16. Alright? Okay, another way to simplify square root is to find the prime factor of the radicand. So, the prime factor of 48 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Don't worry guys, if hindi pa kayo marunong magkuha ng prime factor ng isang number, meron separate video tungkol sa factor at mapapag-usapan natin yung prime factorization. Okay? So, in this case, kunin natin yung perfect square na kung saan makikita natin dun sa prime factor ni 48. So, separate natin yung 2 times 2 kasi alam natin na 4 yan. And then, another 2 times 2, that's 4. And then, may matitirang square root of 3. Tama? So, you'll have the square root of 4, which is 2, and the square root of 4, which is 2. So, multiply that, then you'll get 4. And then, ibaba nyo lang din yung square root ni 3. Then, you'll get the same answer, which is 4, the square root of 3. Again, simplifying square roots, it's not getting the square root of that number. We are just trying to make smaller radicand. At ilalabas natin yung square root ng isang factor ng radicand. Okay? Okay. So, i-apply na natin yung 4 basic operations sa square root. Okay? First, adding square roots. So, kapag same yung radicand niya, ang gagawin mo lang is i-add mo yung square root na nasa labas. So, in this example, we have 4 square root of 7 plus square root of 7. So, in this case, walang number dun sa labas ng square root of 7. So, automatic 1 yan. Okay? So, ang gagawin natin, 4 plus 1. And then, yung square root na 7, ikakopy mo lang yan. So, the answer is 5 square root of 7. Okay? To check that, i-reverse mo lang ulit. So, since si 5 yung square root yun, you need to square that. So, 5 squared times 7 is equals to 175. So, another way to check if our answer is correct is to use the calculator. So, if you check or get the 4 square root of 7, i-click mo muna or kunin mo muna yung square root ni 7. Okay? Times dun sa square ni 4. So, 16. Dapat ang sagot dyan is 10.58 and so on. Next is, kunin mo yung square root ni 7. Dapat ang sagot dyan is 2.64 and so on. So, dahil nag-add tayo ng square roots, add the 10 point something and the 2 point something. So, dapat ang sagot niya is 13 point something. Alright? Yan yung square root ni 175. Kasi yan yung lumabas when we add the 4 square root of 7 plus square root of 7. Alright? Alright, so how about subtracting square roots? Same scenario, meron tayong parehas na radicands. So, ang gagawin lang natin, instead of adding the square root na nasa labas, minus it. So, 4 minus 1, and then copy the square root 7. So, our final answer is 3 square root of 7. So, to check that, just reverse the process. So, square the 3. So, 3 squared times 7, we have 63. To check that using the calculator, just do the same. Since we have the details a while ago, so instead of adding the square root, just minus it. And the answer should be 7.93 and so on. Alright? Alright. So, paano naman kung ang radicands natin magkaiba? So, in this example, I have 3 square root of 20 plus 2 square root of 45. So, ang gagawin natin, kailangan natin i-break down yung radicands natin and let's see yung factor na meron silang perfect square. So, in case of 20, di ba, ang factor niya is 4 and 5. And we know that 4 is a perfect square. Si 45 naman, ang factor niya is 9 and 5, and then si 9 yung perfect square. Okay? Once we break it down, so let's just do the process. So, una, kunin natin yung square root ng perfect square. So, square root of 4 is 2. Tapos, square root of 9 is 3. Okay? So, pag nilabas nyo na yung square root niyan, imumultiply natin dun sa existing na square root. So, example, yung 3, yun yung existing, tapos yung square root ng 4 is 2, multiply natin. So, 3 times 2, tapos ibaba lang natin yung square root of 5. Plus, i-multiply din natin yung existing na 2 dun sa square root ng 9. So, 2 times 3, and then ibaba natin yung square root of 5. Now, let's add yung square root na nasa labas. So, 6 plus 6 is 12. Since same na yung radicand natin, kakopy na lang natin siya. Okay? So, the final answer is 12 square root of 5. To check that, reverse the process. So, yung square root na 12, square that. So, 12 squared times dun sa 5 is equals to 720. Okay? And to check that using the calculator, just get first the square root of 20, then multiply it dun sa square ni 3, which is 9. And dapat ang lumabas is 13.41. Next, get the square root of 45, then multiply it to the square root of 2, which is 4. Then the answer should be 13.41. Okay? Now, get the square root of 720. The answer should be 26.83. Kapag inad nyo yung square root ng 3 square root of 20 and then 2 square root of 45, dapat ang sagot niyan is 26.83 and so on. Okay? Okay, so now we will multiply square roots. In this example, I have 3 square root of 15 times 4 square root of 12. So, it doesn't matter kung parehas or hindi parehas yung radicands niya. The basic way to do that is just multiply the 3 and 4 and then multiply also the radicand, which is the 15 and 12. But in this case, I break the 12 kasi may factor naman siyang perfect square, which is 4 and 3. Kasi pag mas malaki yung number sa radicand, mas mahirap mag-isip ng factor na merong perfect square. Okay? So ito yung ginawa ko. So, 3 square root of 15 times 4. Since brinake ko yung square root of 12, so merong square root of 4 and square root of 3. Then, I have the perfect square of not 4, so kunin ko yung square root niya. So, that is 2, right? So, imumultiply ko siya dun sa 4 na existing na. So, what's next is 3. Yung mga square root, imumultiply ko. So, 3 times 4 times 2. And then, imumultiply ko naman ngayon yung square root of 15 and square root of 3. So, I have now 24 square root of 45. Now, si 45, meron siyang factor na perfect square, which is 9. So, in that case, pwede ko pang kunin yung square root nun. So, square root of 9 is 3. So, pag minultiply ko siya doon sa existing ng 24, so 24 times 3, then 72, and then just put the square root of 5. Okay? So, again, to check that, just reverse. So, I have 72 as my square root, so I'll just square that. So, 72 squared times 5 is equals 25,920. So, let's use the calculator to check if our answer is correct. So, 3 square root of 15, then I'll get 11.6 and so on. 4 square root of 12, then I'll get 13.8 and so on. If I am going to get the square root of 25,920, then I'll get 160.99, and so on. So, kung i-multiply mo yung 11.6 something at 13.8 something, so dapat ang maging sagot niya is yung square root ni 25,920, which is 160.9 something. Okay? Okay, ngayon mag-multiply tayo ng naka-group, okay? So, I have here 3 plus square root of 5 times 4 minus 2 square root of 5. So, in this example, we will use FOIL method. So, we have the first, outside, inside, last term. So, multiply natin muna yung first term, which is 3 and 4. Next, we will multiply the outside terms, which is the 3 and negative 2 square root of 5. Next, we will multiply the inside term, which is 4 and square root of 5. And the last term, we will multiply that, so we have square root of 5 and negative 2 square root of 5. Okay? So, the next step is multiply it now. So, 3 times 4, we have 12. 3 times negative 2 square root of 5, then we will just multiply the square root, right? So, 3 times negative 2, that is negative 6, and then ibaba lang natin yung square root of 5. Yung next, 4 times square root of 5, pagsasamahin lang natin yan. So, it will just be 4 square root of 5. Next, square root of 5 times negative 2 square root of 5. Again, di ba pag walang number dun sa labas, automatic 1 yun. So, 1 times negative 2, that is negative 2. And then, yung radicand niya na square root of 5 times square root of 5, that's square root of 25. Okay? The next thing is that, kapag may nakita ka ng like term or like or same yung radicand niya, yun na yung unahin mo. So, in this case, we have negative 6 square root of 5 plus 4 square root of 5. So, negative 6 plus 4, that is negative 2. Okay? Then, copy the radicand, which is the square root of 5. Okay? Then, ibaba mo na yung mga hindi natin ginalaw na term. So, we have now 12 minus 2 square root of 5 minus 2 times 5. Why? Kasi, diba, yung square root ni 25, that is 5. So, 5 times negative 2. Kaya siya nandun na sa baba. Alright? So, negative 2 times 5, that is negative 10. So, unahin muna natin isolve yan. So, 12 minus 10, and then minus 2 square root of 5. So, 12 minus 10, that is what? That is 2. And then, bring down the negative 2 square root of 5. Okay? So, to check that using the calculator, just get first the square root of 5 and then add that to 3. And you should have 5.23 something. Next, get the square root of 5. Multiply that to the square root of 2, which is 4. Once you have that, 4 minus that answer, you should have the answer of 0.47 and something. Now, get the square root of 5 again, then multiply that to the square root of 2, which is 4, but this time, minus that answer from 2, and then you should have the answer of negative 2.47 something. Okay? So, since multiplication yung ginawa natin, we should multiply 5.23 something and negative 0.47 something, and dapat na sagot dyan is negative 2.47 something. So, pag yun yung sagot, ibig sabihin tama yung sagot natin na 2 minus 2 square root of 5. Okay? Okay, so let's divide square roots. So, in this case, I have square root of 4 divided by 16. Okay? So, what we need to do is to just break it down. So, we have square root of 4 over square root of 16. Then, we have 2 over 4, because the square root of 4 is 2 and the square root of 16 is 4. To check if our answer is correct, just reverse the process. Since the square root is 2 over 4, then let's square them. So we have to multiply 2 over 4 by itself. So 2 over 4 times 2 over 4, it's equal to 4 over 16, which is the radicand of the square root that we're trying to answer. Alright, so in this example, I have square root of 3 divided by square root of 7. So, kung mapapansin nyo, parehas silang hindi perfect square, diba? So, what we need to do is we need to get equivalent term. So, pwede natin silang i-multiply dun sa numerator, which is square root of 3 parehas. So, we'll get square root of 9 over square root of 21. So, equivalent lang siya ng square root of 3 over square root of 7. Kasi nga, minultiply na lang naman natin sila same term, which is square root of 3. Now, once you have that, you already have now the perfect square, which is the square root of 9. So, square root of 9 is 3, and yung square root of 21, as is pa rin siya kasi wala naman siyang, hindi naman siya perfect square. Okay? So, same ng paggamit natin ng calculator to check that. Get the square root of 3 and square root of 7. And then divide that. Dapat ang sagot is 0.65 and something. Kasi, yan yung magiging sagot kapag in-enter mo yung square root of 21, tapos 3 divided dun sa answer na yun. So, dapat yan yung magiging sagot mo. Okay? Alright. So, kanina, to divide square root of 3 and square root of 7, since hindi sila perfect square, humanap tayo ng equivalent terms nila or equivalent fraction nila. So, we multiply it by square root of 3. So, ngayon naman, i-multiply natin siya dun sa denominator. So, square root of 7, both numerator and denominator. So, square root of 3 times square root of 7, we have square root of 21. Square root of 7 times square root of 7, now we have square root of 49. So, yung square root of 49, perfect square na siya. So, pwede na natin siyang i-simplify. So, the answer now is square root of 21 over 7. Okay? To check that in the calculator, we'll have the same process. Just get the square root of 3 and the square root of 7, then divide that. And then also get the square root of 21, then divided by 7. So you should have the same answer, 0.65 and something. Okay? Next. So I have here square root of 80 divided by square root of 5. So since si 80, pwede pa natin siyang i-break down kasi may factor naman siyang perfect square, and that is 16. So multiply it by the factor 5, then you have the same square root of 80, right? So, and then divided by square root of 5. Now, there are two ways to answer these. So, yung kanina, we need to get the square root of 16. We have 4. And then, copy the square root of 5 over square root of 5. Again, pag may parehas na numerator, denominator, we should just cancel it kasi equivalent lang naman niya is 1. So, pag tinimes mo siya sa 4, it's just 4, right? So, same lang na 4 ang sagot. Other way to answer that is just simply divide first the 80 and 5, then you'll get 16 to get, and then you'll need to get the square root of 16, then that's 4. Okay? If you're going to use the calculator, just get the square root of 80, which is 8.9 something, the square root of 5, which is 2.2 something, then divide that. Once you have that, dapat ang sagot mo is 4. Okay? Last example. So I have here 1 divided by 2 square root of 2. So what we need now is to just reverse the 2 square root of 2. So we have 1 over square root of 8. Kasi 'di ba, yung 2 na square root natin, square that, so 2 times 2, and then yung radicand times 2, so we have 8. So 1 over square root of 8, wala namang perfect square dyan. So let's get equivalent fraction. So we multiply it either by 1 or we multiply it either by 8. So we choose square root of 8 for both numerator and denominator. So the equivalent term for 1 over square root of 8 is square root of 8 over square root of 64. So then simplify it. So square root of 8, we know that it's not a perfect square, but it has a factor na perfect square, which is 4. So yung 4, square root niya is 2, so ilalabas ko na, and then yung matitira is square root of 2. Square root of 64, that is a perfect square, so the square root of 64 is 8. And then, pwede pa natin siyang simplify because yung square root natin na 2 over 8, so 2 over 8, ang lowest term niyan is 1/4. Tama? So, yung 1, hindi ko na kailangang ilagay, so automatic na siya. And then yung 4, ilalagay ko sa ilalim. Okay? And then, nandun pa rin yung square root of 2. So, the final answer is square root of 2 over 4. If you're going to check using the calculator, just get the square root of 2 first, and then multiply that to the square of 2, which is 4, and then you should get 2.8 something. And then divide 1 and that answer. So, dapat ang sagot is 0.35 and something. Kasi yan lang naman yung magiging sagot kapag kinuha mo yung square root ni 2, then dinivide sa 4. Okay? Okay, practice time. So, I just want you to copy first the questions and then do it on your own. Once you're done, just check your work here. Okay? Practice, practice, practice. Come on, kaya mo yan. More practice. One more. Last one. Good job.